So welcome to another episode of the Jobs for Women podcast. I'm really excited to welcome our guest this week. We have Natalie Potts, who is a business strategist and performance mentor. Welcome to the podcast, Natalie.
Hi, Zoe. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, you are very welcome. So I'm really excited to chat to Natalie today. Natalie has an incredible amount of corporate experience, which we're going to delve into. 19 years, is it?
19 years in one corporate is a rare thing to say at 36 years old, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, so we're going to delve into that. And then obviously the work that you're doing now. And I got to know Natalie through another podcast, and I just totally resonated with your approach to life, your vision, the way you work with people. And I was like, okay, we need Natalie on the podcast. So we just spoke off camera a little bit then, didn't we? And I feel like from my years in corporate, there was a focus on just being doing your job, maybe going on a training course that the company sends you on, but there wasn't much in terms of like personal development. So we'll get into that as well. But can you just talk us through why you chose to leave 19 years of corporate in the same role, in the same company rather?
Yeah, so lots of that came from back in 2016. I was very conscious that I'd been with the business for a long time, and I was always nervous when coming from university that they always said have, like a plan B as such. And I was like, well, I haven't really got a plan B now. I've been here for quite a while. My success was always quite linear. I did very well it was a very male-dominated environment, but I did well. So I had no need to, but kind of 2016 hit and I thought I've never, what would I fall back on? I've never explored anything else. So I was told, actually, ironically, in the corporate I was in, that I wasn't very good at coaching. So I was like, I'm not having that. So I was like, I'm going to go and find my own thing. Because as much as the courses look great, I would then see people coming back and apparently coaching. And I was like, that doesn't look like what I know coaching to be. I was like, fine, no judgment, no different thing. So found a few coaching establishments and then found one which I absolutely loved. When you come away, that buzzing feeling like you've just watched The Secret and it's like, this sounds so woo-woo, but it's so me. So joined them, again, qualified very quickly through them as performance and then coaching corporate as well, diplomas, which I absolutely loved. And I won an award with them in 2019 for the commitment around CPD work I did after those diplomas as well, because I know we've shared this off camera here, but my focus on personal development has always been there, the same as mindset. And that's probably something that's differentiated me against my peers in corporate. And I see compared to other businesses now is that's what I'll always speak about. So won that CPD performance, which is great. And then it's kind of evolved from there really. And I was still at corporate, COVID hit and I'd started the business, but I literally just couldn't do anything else. It was just, I had to get head down into the role. And then I was just like, I'm just not happy anymore. The values didn't fit. They weren't aligned. This was a big thing. I hit the glass ceiling and didn't get a promotion in this very senior role of directors. And it was kind of my calling of enough's enough. And I just wasn't very happy when I looked at it. And I think I've been forcing myself to think, oh, I should be grateful for this. Or, I've got everything I want and need. And I should be, everyone looks at me like I'm successful, but I'm completely opposite in how I feel. I don't do anything else but work. And I was just like, this isn't what I want my life to be. So I then started looking at, well, what's the strategy look like to lead the business? I can't just go. My biggest fear was this idea of stability of money. Money came in and went out. I didn't really think about it. But then think, well, if you have your own business, you don't have that. So what would I fall back on? So yeah, I just really quick share here, but that was the kind of points of I need to change things. The values it wasn't about complaining about that business or the corporate or the people there. It was that's not going to help me. I'm just not right for this anymore. And I need to change that. And what does that change look like?
I think that's so powerful, isn't it? It's like that piece on yourself, like recognizing what works for you and what doesn't. And just jumping back, when you say glass ceiling, do you feel like, because you achieved such incredible success from a young age, and obviously, was it a leadership course at 21?
Yes, I was managing teams at 20, and it's funny because when you're in those worlds, not to put it badly on a business, but they make you feel like that's a norm as such. And then when you step away and share some things with people, so I always feel sometimes it feels a bit like I'm boasting or going around, I did this and I did that. But the reality is it's not easy leading people, right? I have to say, being a vet or being a teacher is a hard gig. Managing and leading people is a hard gig. And especially when so many businesses don't give people a skill set for that. And I was naturally, it was just one of my things. I loved it. I'm a strong eye in disc. I'm a people person. I just did well at it. So that's why I stayed.
And then when you didn't get that, when you sort of moved into senior, do you think that was partly to do with being a woman at all?
I think it got quite personal, and I noticed the conversations very much the last few years started to change in, you'd always have to be a certain way, or you're this, you're that. And I was like, but a male wouldn't have this conversation. Why am I having, you're very direct, you're this. I was like, I am direct, but I'm not rude. And I'm compassionate with that because I want to get stuff done and I get results. So you can't knock me for getting results and then knock me for the opposite of how I do it, when actually it's not a big issue. It's just different, maybe. And actually, if we went and spoke to my team, it'd be a very different story than the one we're having. So I think I just noticed that it became quite personal on me as a person. Wasn't probably what they saw as a fit of, I was a graduate, but I didn't go to graduate scheme. And I guess I used to say things that would be challenging and I didn't like that. But that came from a place where I'd come, as retail. So I hadn't come from the head office side of things. I'd come from the pure retail and work my way up. So I could look at something and just know it's wrong. I knew the business inside out. There was nothing that would throw me because I'd done it for years and years. I've been so many roles. So then when I had a voice of something, and often those voices are correct when you're in it like that, but they don't want to hear that. And it's very political. And you hear that. I knew that through directors I knew in the business of saying, you can't say this, you can't say that. No, don't ever do this, don't ever do that. And it's like, but that doesn't feel right. That's why the businesses get stuck, in my view. And I just thought, again, I used to think I'd probably change it more than I was able to. And I just thought, again, like, what's this battle for? Because I don't want to do this. It's too tough in some ways to change that. And I don't think I naturally align to those females in those roles. And we hear these stories and I think people think that it don't happen, but they do happen. And people still get, pulled in brown letter and that happens now still. And it's not right, of course, but it's how business operates and you have to be very resilient. So going back to your point there, I just didn't feel aligned to those females. I didn't feel aligned to the business values. And I didn't feel that what I was saying was being listened to or that I felt heard. And we all know that when people don't feel those ways, they're not valued. And when people aren't valued, like in anything, they're out.
100%. It is frustrating to listen to, though, because you are obviously, like, you had all your success. You are obviously a brilliant leader. And it frustrates me that companies are losing amazing people like you that could have transformed that business. And the way it gets personal, and obviously this, the conversations we're having at Jobs for Women, it's about equality. And it really irks me that when you said about perhaps, I don't know what word you used, it wasn't confrontational or aggressive, and we've had these conversations about women trying to be too masculine or dressing like, and then if they don't, to be a leader, then and if they wear a flowery dress. I was reading that is
exactly it. I remember doing that on one of the, it was my sign off, but I had a director in and we hadn't, with the previous, we'd had a visit from her previously and it wasn't great. So we knew that the next one we had to be kind of shining and everything. And she came in and I was wearing a flowery dress on a hot day and she looked up and down me. She was wearing her A-line dress. And I just thought that was a bit for me. I was like, I don't need to feel that way I've just felt from the way you've looked at me. And that's not cool. It's got nothing to do with business. And, I just didn't get it. And that's the stuff where I say the personal stuff, because when it did come to my side of, I'd had all the results. I got signed off by 4 area managers, and then it was just her on a Zoom call with me. It was like, we just don't know what you stand for as a leader. And I felt like saying, well, why don't you actually make the effort and come in to meet me? That wouldn't have done me any favors. So then again, you pick your battles, and it's like, I'm kind of beat now. I'm done. I've given everything. I've worked like 70, 80 hours a week. I said I can't give much more. I said, I'm done. And my boss couldn't understand that when I wanted to leave. And I said, what's the point? I said, I just don't want this life. And that, it is really sad. And it beats a lot of people. I think the worst, where it's more sad though, is if it stops people from then zoning in on something like I've been able to do and create their own business or do something they love, or go to another business and they're so beaten down in confidence, self-esteem, everything. That's when it's got a bigger issue, I think, than me being able to now see it as my gift. Yeah, so the risk is that people, if they're really unhappy in jobs like that, they just end up leaving opposed to challenging things. And it's a sad place for businesses, because I've had the strength and resilience to go on and look, what do I want to do, and create that and create my own business. And I love it. But there's lots of women in particular probably that would go through that experience and they'd be beaten down, their confidence, their self-esteem, everything would just go. And that will stop them from pursuing anything, you know, that they would like to in terms of their dream business and everything. And that's when it's a problem, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we know that that's where the gender pay gap is so prevalent, because you're at the top of your game on an incredible salary with all your expertise, and then you left, and that's contributing to the gender pay gap. And then we obviously then get into women's health and menopause, and women are leaving again at the top of their game. So it is really frustrating. And yeah, it is. At least with you, you've been able to plow all of this experience and this expertise into now helping other people. So talk to us a little bit about what you do, because I know, again, we talked at the beginning about sort of the mindset piece. And I feel like when I was in corporate, I wish I'd have had, you know, someone that would have been like, you know, what's going on with you? What do you want? What's the long-term vision? And I feel like I was just head down, you know, doing the doing. Yeah. And I feel like there's so many women that will be listening to this that, you know, might be in a job, they might have been in there a while. How do you work with people on this sort of vision piece or strategy piece if they're in a role now?
Yeah, it's interesting because we were saying before, I've come from very much qualifying, like I said, as a coach. Then I've started to mentor with a coaching establishment as well. And then the mentoring's gone to connecting the dots and saying, actually, what I love is strategy. I see gaps and I know what to do. And you go do X, Y, Z, you get X, Y, Z result. And it's that, you know, you have a very strong vision in business where you want to be. And it is the reverse and engineering the steps back and not overcomplicating business. We say in the corporate that, you know, everything will work, we just put humans in it as such, and then that's when it kind of changes, and everything would be like a cog system and a machine if that wasn't the issue. Or I say issue, but if that's when the challenges are presented. And the same with us, we make business very complicated when actually it's simple. It's just not easy. And the main thing is around having a vision, having your goals, not like hundreds of thousands, even like, well, your really core goals you're working towards for a year. I think we need bigger visions as well within this of what we're working for 3 to 5 years now, because COVID took us back to, like, we can even talk the next week as such sometimes, let alone, you know, the next year. But I think, again, we've shifted and we need to be mindful of what do we want long term. So we're aspirational in our dreams and our goals as well, and then bring that back. But you fundamentally create like 90-day blocks of a year, keeping it simple, and everything then you do is aligned to that year goal. So you're always, everything you do daily is aligned to what you're working for a year. So there's when people come to me like, I don't know what to do day to day. It's like, but if you've got your goals set for the quarter as such, 90 days, everything you do is you create a to-do list off of that, because you've got measures of success for 90 days and then you know if you've achieved them or not. So then you focus on the right things, and anything that's not focused to that 90 days has to be kind of put into that ideas box, or that, you know, then the next review as such when you come to it and think about, well, are those objectives there, what I want to do, aligned to, again, what I want to achieve for the year? So if I'm saying that I want to really build my audience, and I'm looking at speaking, doing a podcast, building my email list, being on social every day, and like there's loads there, but to prioritize out of those and then going, oh, I'm going to start a YouTube now. It's like, but is a YouTube in the strategy? And it's like, no. So it's like, we'll leave that for the minute, because again, we spread ourselves so thin, we don't get consistent. And being bored in your business has to be a part. Being consistent has to be a part in the same things over and over. And that's where a lot of people then make it complicated, because they don't want to do those things. And unfortunately, that's business. Unless something's like completely like I don't do my accounts, like my accountant does those. That's because I just got no time, energy, effort. I've got no interest in it. but there's a level of content. I do all my own copy, and I'll always do my own copy, and I have a VA. So you've got to work out those things where you're at your best and where it can hinder your growth too. I kind of say, like, this idea of £1,000, £100, £10 tasks, like, get rid of the £10 and put all your energy and efforts into the things that are going to drive your return.
I love that. I heard that little analogy, and I love that. And I thought, I'm gonna bank that for later. I definitely need that. So if someone is listening and they're employed and they don't have their own business, and say they want, I don't know, a promotion, can they use that same approach? Right, for the next 90 days, this is what I'm going to do to work towards. It might be
loads of those things will come down to the mindset part, like you said. I remember working particularly one female to get a promotion, and I was mentoring her, and her feedback was that she was almost overconfident, coming across a bit arrogant, and she wasn't. It was nerves, and we had to really work that back. So often most of our reasons why we're not getting to where we want to be are a mindset block, and we've got to unpack those. And that's why I'll always work with the idea that I work on strategy, but always underpinning that as an undercurrent is always mindset. It's a reason, there'll be something. So we know that there's a reason we're putting things off. So, okay, we're procrastinating. Well, why? Because we're procrastinating because of X, Y, and Z. So it doesn't always have to be a massive depth or we can overthink things as well. But you need to have that. It all starts with awareness to then bring the change. And then you decide to take the action. So you've got to, again, I would say, slow down, speed up, and look at, actually challenge yourself on what are really my blocks right now? Where is that mindset? Or is it strategy and I just don't know what to do and I need that help? But you've got to have that understanding and awareness right from the start.
I love that idea of just starting with the blocks, because we must all have so many that we're almost unconscious. Like when you do the procrastination or the reason that you're not, maybe, I don't know, going on LinkedIn every day and writing a post, and what are the blocks, and delving in. Is that what you do then with your mentoring? Mentors?
Yeah, so I work with that as well. It depends what people really they want and need. And I'm very focused right now on all my programs. I'll have a one-to-one with someone, irrelevant whether they're group or one-to-one, because I think expectations are very high for the people, and we'll put a lot of onus on someone else for delivering that and not ourselves enough responsibility. So I want to be really clear on what somebody expects out of something, and then share, even though you've done a discovery call, that can still change things, or they can get in depth of, I just want X, Y, and Z. So we really need to understand those expectations. And sometimes I think they're deeper than just money, clients and stuff. It's like, I want it for experiences with my family before my parents are too old, or before my kids get to years at school where they don't have the same time they have when they're kids, and all these different real reasons. Like I always say that I used to work with fitness trainers a lot years ago, and I'd say that people don't just want to lose weight to feel good in a bikini. They want to have better sex. They want to have walk down the beach and say, like, have a guy like wink at them or something, right or wrong. Like they want the real deeper stuff. Get into the narrative of what we actually say in our heads, because this is the actual obstacles and the blocks that we have. So yeah, I work a lot with my mindset coach on my work, so I'm always evolving my own skill set as well, which is important, and my own mindset with things. And I think that has to be that you live and breathe what you say you do, especially when it comes to values in your business. And I see that at people, and I think that something can hold me back sometimes, is when people aren't aligned to those. I'm like, whereas I have to let that go sometimes, because that everybody's trying and everybody's human, right? We're not going to be perfect all the time. But, one of the pieces we did I did with my mindset coach recently was around that what are the blockers, and taking my number one value, which is freedom for me, and then looking at what's my biggest obstacle right now. And if I was to break those down into more obstacles, like what's the reason I'm not getting there, and how's that linked to my highest value of freedom? So that was just a profound piece of work. And these aren't overnight things as well. I think we get very impatient, and you've got to fall in love with the process. You've got to fall in love with the taking action every single day as well to get to the big things. The same as we know we're not going to rock into a gym and have abs the next day. We use these analogies, but in business we're like, yeah, but we'll get there quicker. And it's like, no, right? You've got to, again, it's a process. So you've got to fall in love with that, and you've got to understand what a step by step looks like. Again, that's where we can overcomplicate it. So I think coming back to your own mindset stuff, knowing where you sit with strategy, doing the groundwork yourself, living and breathing what you do. These are all absolutely critical things in terms of building and developing a business. And I guess if you're in the corporate space and you're wanting to progress, as you said in that question, then explore what's holding you back right now, what's the gap with where you want to be, and who can help you. We don't ask for help enough.
Yeah, great advice. And similarly, there might be women listening like you that are ready to leave the corporate space, and the mindset piece is huge, because obviously, I've started my own business, and that is it's hard, otherwise everyone would be doing it, and it has its own challenges. And so I mean, I'm a yoga teacher, so mind is become huge for me, and I really see the connect with being an entrepreneur and understanding. But I think some of the things you've said really resonate and will resonate with people listening, kind of like the values. It's like that I loved that yours is the freedom. Just the word freedom for me, like, it evokes loads of thoughts, and I think I'm similar to you, and I think that would be one of mine. And I also love what you said about getting into the detail, like going to the gym to have better sex. It's like, and the guy winking on the beach, I can really relate to that, because sometimes we skirt around and we say things like, because so obviously I've started Jobs for Women because I'm so passionate about people having an equal opportunity at work, being paid the same. I've got a son, I've got a daughter. It's a non-negotiable for me that he would be paid more, whatever. But part of it is to look after my family, to look after my mum and dad as I get older, to pay for their holidays. And that's come more recently with me, because I was just maybe on the whole equality. But I'm like, actually, this fuels me. And that's how I can really relate to what you're saying. And I guess the people that you work with, that must be like light bulb moments. And like you say, it's not instant, is it? This is a work. This is long term.
It's not instant. I do some work in schools actually with a company, and we do work on motivational skills, learning skills, and in there a lot you just get the idea that, and we teach them how to plan their time. Like, we're not educated to understand this stuff, and then we get to 30s, 40s, 50s, and then we're like, we're not actually doing what we love. We just got into this, and that's where it presents a challenge. I don't think it's an issue. I think it's a good challenge to me to think about, how do you explore that with people, or people that then think I know it all as well. And it's like, people can be paid and have stupid amounts of money as well, and be the most unhappiest people ever. And I was kind of that, and that's one of my biggest fears is, I know where I can get to. My belief about what I want to achieve isn't an issue, but the point is that, will I be happy? Like, what is enough? That's a big one. So we've all got challenges. We all fear very similar things, and we all want similar things when it comes to it. We want love, we want security, we want comfort, we want to feel that we belong. The yoga stuff is a big part of that. It'll be about community. It'll be about people being with people where they can smile, because maybe they're with people all day and it's just miserable. And it's getting to that, something like, do you feel that you just want to come somewhere and smile? Do you feel that everywhere is about business and being intentional, when you just want to have a laugh and have fun, and that's okay? I said that to someone the other day, like, there's what's your podcast great? Because I've got a podcast as well. I said, it started just to be fun, get out of my head, and it's like my own therapy. It doesn't need to be more than that. If I want to monetize it, I'll monetize it. I don't at the minute, because if I create something where I end up hating it, it feels a chore, I'm out. That's not why I created it. And that's got an intention even in itself, that I just want it to be fun. And I think so it's the, like you say, just take all of the business jargon out at times, or we think we've got to sound like this, or, do you want abundance? Do you want empowerment? Who really who wakes up and talks like that, or is educated to talk like that? They're not. Have an authentic voice. No, talk how you feel. Talk what's in your head. Talk what's in your heart. Say, write, your heart on your sleeve. Like, say it. What do you really want? I want this. It's like, right, now we're getting somewhere.
I feel like this is why I totally resonated with you. Just like how you're talking, how it's like, yes, so
and
real.
This is where I know my way of being is direct, but for some it's years ago probably been blunt, but then that's what I've worked through for years. But now it's like, but it's done with compassion. Is right, let's make it happen then. Let's go together. Let's go on that journey. You can do it. And I always say to my clients, like, I'll never work with anyone I can't believe in. It's that honest. Like, if I can't believe in what you're doing, whether you find that tough to hear or not, it doesn't mean that someone else isn't. It took Dyson 5,000 prototypes or something. You think of like J.K. Rowling, like, people just keep going. That's your resilience onto you. Doesn't mean that someone's not going to see something in you. I just don't, and it's not going to work for us, and that's okay. And that's again, we're very emotionally attached to things. I think if you're more resilient, let it go. It's not personal. It's just like, when I see people that aren't for me, I'm like, it's just not for me. I don't need to go around judging any more than that. It's just not for me, and that's okay.
Love it. We've got to wrap up soon, but I really want to talk to you really quickly about, maybe it's like a boring topic to end on, but time blocking, because when I listened to you, I was like, right, I need some of that. And it's literally like, I'm still working out it. I'm not going to lie, it's not got it down. But you talked about, and do you know what my favorite thing you said was that you prioritize you first when you're blocking your week. I was like, I need to do that. So you inspired me.
Thank you. I think, again, even I overcomplicate stuff in my head, and I've had to see recently, especially on the business mastermind I'm a part of, that my knowledge isn't common knowledge. Has been a real slap in the face for me. And it's as basic as things like time blocking, that it is the analogy of put your own oxygen mask on. You've got to do that first, because even if you've got kids, whatever the situation, if you can't show up your best to serve, you can't serve them. You can't be a good parent, you can't be a good sister, friend, whatever. And that's important. And again, you become chasing the shiny object syndrome thing if you don't just focus on yourself and what you really need. So I do focus on that. It's important, and it inspires people as well around me, whether that's friends, family, clients as well. That journey piece does, because like I said, it's simple, but it's not easy for people. So I prioritize myself. I then prioritize and look at my business second to that, because I don't, it's like work. I don't live to work. And then I'll look at the review and evaluation, like how things going, what's going really well, do more of it, what's not going so well, do less of it, and that type of thing, will change it. So again, we don't give enough time to really just reviewing and reflecting on where we're at. That's important too, and slowing down the process to speed up. So that's always that time blocking element, incorporates it there. But I feel it's another level on just create a to-do list and get it done. And actually, to-do list is never done. And actually, time blocking will never be done, but it's inviting you to prioritize the key things in your life.
Yeah, I love that. A coach said to me recently when I had a session, and she said, the work is never going to go away. You going to a yoga class or you going to meditate for half an hour, it's not going to change. The to-do list, like you say, is never ending, isn't it?
And that's the fall in love with the process part.
Yeah. Amazing. Right. Well, I mean, I could talk to you for ages. Thank you so much for joining us. If people want to connect with you, where can they find you?
Best places on Instagram, Natalie Potts, and Natalie Business Strategist. And in my website, it's nataliepotts.co.uk. So quite simple, that one. And yeah, the thing is just, I think I put out a post today, like, stop bloody scrolling and let's just get on a call, open up the conversation, see where it goes. There's no big commitment. You just got to make it happen.
Is that what you offer then? Like, if someone's interested in working with you, discovery?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, like I don't want anybody just buying my programs. It needs to be the right values fit, and that I'm able to help them get the results that they really want. It's really important.
Okay, and I'll put all the details in the show notes. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.